Hey guys, it's Eric here at Farpoint Restorations. Today we're going to be fixing up this. This is ugly. This was the driver's seat out of my 66 Beetle, if you've been following the series here. And this one, the fabric was redone at some point, obviously so long ago in the past that it has now failed. I do have new seat covers, seat cushions, or seat covers for this. These are aftermarket, but they are OEM style, pretty much look as good as new when you're done. But all the other seats we've already done if you've been watching the series. If not, you can go back and watch them. This one, however, the padding has also been replaced with, I don't know what. We'll find out when we get into it. And so I figured on this particular seat, I would go ahead and show you the process of how we go and replace all this stuff. The first thing you're gonna have to do, you don't need a ton of tools for this either, by the way, but the very first thing you're gonna have to do here is on each side, right down here in the bottom, there is a bolt. Actually, it's a nut that you're gonna take, no, it's a bolt that you take off, and then you're gonna be allowed to separate the two halves. Once you have them apart, we'll do the bottom first, and then we'll move on to the top. So let's go. So it's a 10 millimeter. We'll unscrew that. And this is all that's holding the seat back in place here. This seat's not in terribly, like the frame and stuff, the springs, they're not in bad shape. It's just the overall condition of the foam and everything else. So on this particular seat, we went ahead, because I don't expect that the original stuff is in any kind of condition worth saving. So we actually got it to where we bought foam for this one. All the other ones we were able to just use, just basically take off the old stuff and put it back on. And here you can see the two halves are already separated. There's not a lot to this. This bottom piece here is slightly more difficult than the other. And of course, it's gonna be different depending on yours. If yours has still got the original seat casing on here, it's gonna be a little different. But this thing here, it's hard for you to see, but it's got fish string and it's custom made. So we're just gonna get a knife and kind of cut that off so we can see what's going on below. If you're hearing some whistling here, I've got a heater on in the background and it's kind of noisy. Unfortunately, I don't know what's causing that. Need to look into it. It's a good heater. And right now, like it seems to be almost all the time lately, it's snowing again outside. So I'm stuck with having to be in the garage, cooped up, and just doing the best that I can as far as getting content out to y'all. Of course, who knows, by the time I get around to posting this, it may be summer. That's the beauty of this stuff sometimes, is that we really don't know what's going on until it's finally happened. All right, I've cut most of that loose. The other part on here, and I'm not going to be reassembling this, is this cover here. I'm not going to reuse this cover. You can kind of see it sitting there, and it just sits in here. It's got this metal piece here that I'm just going to push out of the way. That's all that holds it in place, so we'll get that out of there. And then we can get this last piece if it's still in there. Now these seats, I got to get a flat blade screwdriver for the next part of this. These seats have a bunch of sharp metal tabs that you have to fold up and then fold back down when you get your new seat cover on. Be careful not to stab yourself. My poor wife was trying to help me out, and she got herself pretty good on one of these with the other seat. And so just be mindful. Now that one there, the seat back is much easier. It doesn't involve that kind of pain, but the bottoms here do have that. So just be mindful. Once I get the cover off, I'll show you these little pieces a little closer, but there they are. They are very sharp, and you kind of lift up and off of it. Looks like on this, I'm just gonna rip this. Man, this thing is rough. It's so strange that they chose to just cover over it. Okay, we have one here that's still intact, so I'll pull that one up. And there it is. You can see the original seat cover on the bottom here. This, okay, this is really weird. So it's like, it looks like a seat cushion from a vehicle, but then it's also got some more cushioning glued on. It's a mess, and it looked terrible. So I'm happy to see that go. This is what yours will look like at the beginning. And what's weird is it's not even that bad. Now, we've got new foam, so we will replace it, but it's interesting to me that, honestly, looks to me like it could have gone. So we're going to pull these up, get them off of those metal tabs. And sometimes you'll use the needle nose just to straighten things out. You can also use it so you don't end up cutting your hand. Most of these tabs are still intact. Sometimes if the seat's been messed with quite a bit over the years, you know, like after probably the third or fourth time that a seat gets recovered, a lot of these tabs become so mangled and damaged that they're just not usable anymore. This one back here. And this seat has had some work done on it. There's a wire here that shouldn't exist that's kind of holding stuff in place somewhat. And as well over this side. So I'm going to kind of unsew this mess here. Thankfully, since we're not going to be reusing this, at this point, now that we've got everything loose, we can just kind of cut this old seat cover off. Now, some will try, like this one here, you know, whoever reupholstered it, they left this intact and just tried to cover over it. You can do that if you're going to create your own custom seat covers, but if you're going to try to reuse this stuff, that won't work. These things are cut so perfectly, they're just not going to work. All right, so there is the old seat cover, the original old seat cover, and here is our horsehair seat insulate. Yeah, this is our original foam. This is horsehair. I'm just going to kind of peel that off like so. There it is. And you know, it's not in the worst shape, honestly. It's also not in great shape. I bought new foam. We're going to go ahead, get our new foam and install it. All right, and here it is. Here's the back. We'll set that off to the side, and here is our seat. Certainly a little more squish than the original horsehair. But you're just going to kind of lay that in there, and it just sits right back basically where the old seat cover was. Not a lot going on there, right? All right, and we're ready. So this is our back here. We're ready to put our bottom back in place. This is, you know, it's like you got to stretch this a little bit. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let me readjust the camera. I'll get a second angle going here because this is a little bit tight. All right, so here's what we got. I got another camera here, so I'll be switching back and forth between the two. So the front goes on first. You can see we've got this overlapped, and we're just going to kind of slide that in there and get that on as much as we can, hopefully. Right? And what I'm going to do now is pull this chair up here. We'll flip this thing over so you can see a little better. All right, so we've got it here. And then I'm going to tuck it in along the back as well. But what we're going to have here is quite a bit of stretching that we're going to have to do to get all this to fit. Now, if you're reusing your original padding, this will be easier to get back together. But in my case, because we're going with new padding, that's going to complicate things slightly. And we can pull this up little by little. And we're actually going to go ahead and make our first pinch right there onto our existing, that one's a little damaged, let me see if I can fix that up, onto our existing little stab points or whatever you want to call them. So I'm going to pull that up. All right, we'll pull this up as well. The payoff here is that if you buy like Amazon seat covers, and use those, there's nothing wrong with that, but they don't really come out all that great. Having a little trouble getting this one to come through because of how bad but now that it's through, we fold that over and it kind of grabs it, so when we pull back on this now, it won't have a place to go. And you can see we're slowly going to pull this thing into position. If I can jam it in there. And it's a lot of stretching and whatnot, but it goes. A lot of stretching. You just want to work it while being careful, because obviously you don't want to rip it. But it's starting to go. And if you try to get this on without getting a corner of it started, you'll just end up pulling it up over and over and over again. So that's not going to work for you. You want to make sure that you're getting this anchored at the front here and then work it around the back. So let's set that aside. I think it looks pretty good. And we'll work on this back part. This back part is arguably a lot easier, although it does have its specialness too. It does still have some of the stabs, so let's get those up and out of the way without hurting ourselves, hopefully. Man, that's nasty. The horsehair on the back here is really rough. Oh yeah, this one's really ugly. All right, and again, because we're not going to reuse this seat cover, we can go ahead and cut this outer layer off. And again, you're going to see the creative workmanship here. Yeah, so what they did here was they literally put spray foam, or they spray adhesive, and just wrapped this with another layer of adhesive, but it obviously not working too well. So again, we can take a razor here. We'll cut this whole thing off since we won't be reusing any of it. There we go. This seat's very poor shape, honestly. Might have tried to find another seat if I had known how bad this was, but we'll get this horsehair off of here as well. Very deteriorated. Now I can see why somebody, the old owner, you know, tried to fix this by any means necessary. It's definitely ugly. It looks like this is also slidden apart here. Oh man, that's even more gross. There's actually a mouse nest in the seat. And you're likely to find weird stuff like that. Oh my gosh. Okay, I don't really want to touch this stuff, but not only is there mouse hair in the seat, there's rat poison, there's green stuff here in the seat. If you got pets and you're working with old Beetles, you better be careful, because this kind of stuff shows up. Poor critter gets a hold of that. That's a bad scene, right? Okay, thankfully the spring itself, they're not damaged, they're just ugly. But I can deal with ugly. I've been ugly my whole life. All right, we're gonna go ahead and lay the seat cover on here. Just kind of sits over the top, tucks in. And again, because we're replacing this seat cover, the seat foam, the seat cover itself is gonna be a little more difficult to put back on, but it's still a whole lot easier than the bottom half. The crucial thing here is when we put this on, we want to make sure that we line it up right, because if it's a little offset, it's very difficult to get these back off. I had to clean up a little bit. The horsehair was really bothering me. Anyway, once we get this on here, we need to make sure that as we pull down that we're staying pretty well centered. We want that seam to be right on the edge there. And you want to pull down equally on both sides, little by little. Get too far off center and you can get it bound up. But if you get it just right, even though it's new stuff and it's a little snug, it should slide into place. As I say that, and it binds up. And it does get harder as we go. Oh no. And there it is. All right, so we'll have to do a little work here on the bottom just to make sure everything goes back together. And that pretty much involves pulling these back in here and getting it lined up. I'm going to get a little piece of carpet so I don't damage the top on the concrete here. I'm going to straighten up my little pegs here. just to make sure that this goes as smoothly as it can, because this has got to be tucked pretty snug, pretty snug. Nice. Well, let's go ahead and bolt the top to the bottom and get it installed. This interior job will be done. Let's do it. There it is, my friends. Look, was it absolutely 100% perfect? No. But I am still learning how to do interior work on Beetles. Honestly though, the other front seat, the one where we reused the original padding, went a whole lot easier. This one I did get a little tear on the bottom, although it's covered by the mechanism and the upper seat, so it's not going to be a big issue. That being said, it is a bummer, but yeah. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, this how-to video, or gave you some tips and pointers. Next video, we'll show off the completed interior on this car, and it's time to replace the gas tank and fuel lines, and then it's time to drive this thing. I got the title, I got insurance, and I'm ready to rock and roll. See you later, my friends. Take care.